that's time to start. So I'll be talking a little bit as it goes on and thanking a few people with regards to the book and talking about the magazine. But let's get our first 4 readers up. So let me invite Rochelle, Sean, Juliana and Jill to come up, and they'll just read one after the other. Thank you.
So I'm Rochelle Atala, and I'm going to read an extract from a story called Wooden Heart. I should tell you, she said, because it's all sorted now. What's sorted? I've made a deal. I've been given a wooden heart. What? It won't hurt anymore because I've got a wooden heart. She said it so calmly that it seemed wrong to doubt her. Where did you get it? I said. Does it matter? No, I suppose it doesn't. I opened the fridge and placed my face in further than I needed to. She always kept her fridge smelling of limes. Can I get you anything? I said. Are you hungry? She tilted her head. Do you think grapefruit juice would harm it? I have these tablets I meant to take, but I can't take grapefruit juice with them. A smile started to spread across her face. Oh, it won't matter now. Isn't this wonderful? I can go to the shop and get you some if you want. She rose from her seat and embraced me, nuzzling her nose into my shoulder. It's such a relief not to feel it beating anymore, she said, before pulling me in and inspecting me. How are you, darling? Are you bearing up okay? I took to roaming rooms, inspecting his things, continuously surprised by what he'd kept and considered treasure. In the hall, there was an aerial view of our house in an ugly frame that a salesman had convinced him to buy. When I opened the door of the outbuilding, I was expecting to smell the menthol of tiger balm that he swore cured everything. But it smelled only of damp and wood. There were shavings scattered across the workbenches and on the floor. A lump of wood sat on the bench with pencil marks on it, but I couldn't decipher what he'd been trying to make. He'd made Mum a spice rack once, but its size was unfortunate. Too much space for 6 jars, but not enough room for the 7th. I swept the floor because I couldn't bear to have little traces of him lying around. She cooked his favourite meals and often left a third plate resting on the side. She'd watch me eat, but rarely lifted her own fork. We never spoke his name. Her clothes gathered in folds around her, like a child playing dress-up, and her wedding ring began to hang loose from her finger, falling to the knuckle, and I'd watch her shift it back into position. Why don't you eat more? I said. I'm trying, but really there's hardly any room. This heart is much bigger than the last. I'm starting to think this must be what it's like to have a gastric band. I actually think it's getting thicker. Do you think that's possible? Anything's possible, I said. I started weighing her every few days. I'd prod her gently up onto the scales and stare at the needle. She was disappearing, but somehow the scales were climbing. I'd stare at her and she'd shrug. I took her to the doctor's surgery to get her blood pressure checked, and she sat down in the chair without any protest. She smiled politely as the nurse started talking to her, but I could see, inspecting her closely, there was smugness simmering under the surface. There really is no need for this, she said, as the nurse struggled to strap the cuff tight enough to her skeletal arm. Well, you did miss your review appointment with Dr. Bishop last week, the nurse said, and you've not requested any of your repeat medication over 2 months. So we think it's best we just give you a quick check. OK, Mum replied, settling into her chair. But like I've said, there really is no need for the fuss or the medication. You see, just let the lady take your blood pressure, I said, and from the arch in her eyebrows I took it that she understood there was no mention of a wooden heart to this stranger. The nurse pressed a button and Mum's face altered slightly as the cuff tensed around her arm. As it eased off, her face settled back into discreet smugness. The nurse stared at the screen as she waited for the results, and I too found myself peering round. Hyphen marks flashed up before the machine appeared to switch itself off. Let's try that again, shall we? The nurse said. My machine gave up on me there. A chuckle escaped from her lips, but there didn't seem to be anything to laugh about. She tried 2 more times to get a reading before she asked if she could test the machine out on me. It worked fine with my last patient, she explained, now strapping the cuff onto my arm. I clenched my fist and waited for the cuff to constrict before relaxing again, while the nurse stared intently at the screen. She turned the face of the machine towards me and it read 122/73. Is that okay? I said. You have perfect blood pressure, she replied, slumping back into her seat. Not to worry, Mum said. Why don't we come back another day? Truly, I feel perfectly healthy, healthier than I've been in a long time. I caught her staring at the kettle as it boiled on the gas hob. She raised her shoulders back and her collarbone protruded out from her chest. She settled her fingers there, like a ledge for them to rest on. When the kettle began to whistle, she didn't move, and I nudged past her to turn off the gas. "I think you need to eat more," I said. "You're beginning to sound rather repetitive." I dug my nails into the palms of my hands. "You don't have to give up, you know. Just because he's gone doesn't mean you should too." She said nothing for a long time. "I'd take some cod liver oil if you wanted to get me some. I imagine the oil would be good for the heart." "Okay," I said. "I'll pick some up later." Thank you.
My name's Sean McMenemy, and this story's called Fishing in Largs. Me and my sister were paddling in the wee burn beside the putting green. Jelly shoes, bucket and spade, looking for starfish. "Here, listen to this," she said. "What?" She put a shell up to my ear. See's right there, you dafty. I don't need one of them to hear it. But you can hear it better like this. I listened. She was right. It was like the waves were swooshing through my brain. "Aye, very good," I says, "but we're supposed to be looking for starfish." The water nipped at my legs. At least it wasn't above my waist like it was with my sister. I bent down to move a rock and a loud voice echoed over my head. "Woohoo, yous two." It was my dad at the other side of the bridge, waving his hat and laughing. My sister grabbed onto my shoulder. "Dad, come hear this," she shouted, waving the shell. "Never mind that," he said. "I'm going to the chippy. Who's coming?" "Me," we both shouted and rushed to get out of the burn. My sister made it up on the ledge first, and when I tried to pull myself up, she shoved me down and scampered off laughing. I managed to catch hold of a rock and stop myself from going flying. Up in the promenade, she was holding my dad's hand, hiding behind him and making faces. She knew she could get away with it with him there, but she'd pay for it later. There was a man down at the seafront fishing. "When can we go fishing, Dad?" I asked. "I'll take you proper fishing one day, son. You never catch anything down here." That was always his answer. I spotted the guy's line tighten, rod bent at a sharp angle. He was in the water next and reeling like mad. "Look, Dad, he's caught something." Aye, they called. Him and my sister kept walking. I stopped. A bit of a crowd was gathering. Others even crossed the road to see what the attraction was. "He's definitely got something," a woman said. "Aye, a snag," my dad muttered from behind. "Must be some size," another man said. You could hear him groaning, trying to reel it in, the rod almost snapping. He was angling it from side to side, hoping to get it under control. Tide was coming in fast, soaking his denims up to the waist. Soon his white vest was all you could see. Still, his rod went to and fro. A proper battle. He looked out on his feet, on the verge of losing it. Somehow he got his balance again, managed to jerk it back and reel it in. He had no landing net, just scooped it up with both arms. It was some size and all. "It's a bloody salmon," someone shouted. He unhooked it and held it up towards the crowd. Everyone cheered, even my dad. Then he clenched his left fist and punched the fish right in the mush. Not everyone found it as funny as we did.
Hi, my name's Juliana Dunn, and this story is called Day Tripper. I always pack my bag the night before. Sandwiches, check. Water bottle, check. Thermos on countertop, check. In the morning I shower and eat toast in my towel, then I dress for the weather. Today is cord trousers, ironed at the seam, a flowery blouse and wool jumper. I attach an amethyst brooch for the occasion. I take a Tuesday normally since I've been allowed to choose my day. It's less busy on the trains. I fill the thermos with tea, supplied by Jean from a plastic jug. Later I pour the tea down a drain outside the station and refill with white wine, bought the week before during licensing hours. Tony lets me collect it before 12 because I'm a loyal customer. The thermos warms the wine, which isn't ideal, but appearances. I stand below the screens in Central Station and choose a place to go. I must take a train that's leaving soon to make the most of my day, and not too far so that I can get back in time. Largs, 10:26, platform 12. Perfect. I buy my ticket at a machine and begin my journey. A few stops in, a mother and baby get on requiring assistance with the buggy, and so on. After 10 minutes of faffing, the woman sits opposite me and brings out the child to sit on her knee. Its nose is running and I can see older stuck-on gunk that should have been wiped away before the fresh stuff started. It pulls its hat off and throws it on the floor. I smile but internally recoil. I sip my wine and turn to the window, watching the buildings give way to greens and browns. We turn a corner and the sea opens out beneath me. I imagine the water running blue and grey, moving at our speed as we chase each other down the coast. There are seagulls everywhere in Largs, and as I open my sandwich on a bench by the beach, I become a person of interest. One walks over, bold as brass. Its hooked bill has some red at the tip, and its eyes are yellow. I wonder what crime it committed today, what blood, what kill, and on it walks from that to this moment, unperturbed, unremorseful. Every day is an apology for me. Mornings are a grovelling meekness, and in the evenings I may bask in a wan smile from Jean or another, signalling that I have fulfilled the day's requirements of uneventfulness. Every day that is, but Tuesdays, where I can replace the tea for warmed wine and I can choose a train. I head back to the station and settle myself amongst the standing crowd on the platform. There's a school class on a trip, so the rest of us travellers stick together. We are many but still sparse. A nudge would most likely be noticed. I don't remember going on any school trips, different times now. I think I will say something like this to the teacher, who's standing tall watching her flock. She wears dangly earrings which look heavy. I might ask her if they feel heavy. That's a good way to start the conversation. I take a step in her direction, but the train hoots as it rounds the corner and the children start cheering. The moment has passed. I make a mental note to tell someone I've not been on a school trip when I'm out next Tuesday. The return journey feels longer than the outward leg. I pick up a paper which is lying on the seat opposite. An article once called me beastly, my actions grisly. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, I suppose, but a grisly beast at 5'2". This made me giggle at the time, and I thought, beasts don't giggle, which made it all the funnier. Instead of asking me to share the joke, a Linda or a Jean told me that laughing at your own thoughts is generally unacceptable. Well, they probably wouldn't have got it anyway. I purchased my wine at Tony's on my way home, and he'll hold it until next week. Linda is waiting for me when I get up the stairs and takes my bag and offers tea, which I duly accept. She asks how my day was as she hands me my pills and water. Without listening to my reply, she remarks how tired I must be and busies off. I sit in the chair by my bed. No kettle rumbles in the background. I can hear Alfred crying in his room next door, so it must be nearly lights out. I get into my pyjamas. Linda and someone new come to say goodnight, and they lock my door behind them. They don't look through the square window to check. I'm not so interesting anymore.
Hello, I'm Jill Davis, and this is called Destroy. Can't see with anyone. She popped me out. The cow just finished it out the blue. Fucking devastated. My mate tells me she's been hanging about with that Hector off the buses. I've been phoning her and she's just dinging me. I went for a pint and I sent her a text. You have just made the biggest mistake of your life treating me like that. I'm going to destroy the both of yous. Trust me, you went too far. I don't give a fuck anymore. It was late by the time I get back to the hostel. I put some tunes on. Someone chapped the door. Thought it was the boy. The fucking police chinning me for threatening her. Fuck's sake, I says, I only texted her a message and said I would destroy her. They goes, you're too drunk to be interviewed. We'll be back in the morning. Arrested. Up in court. Charged. The sheriff says he thinks I think my behaviour is acceptable. Aye, well. My brief goes, he appreciates it's not an acceptable way to speak and behave. The breakup of his marriage has hit him hard and he is increasingly desperate and paranoid. Sake, man, I'm no fucking doolally. Out for a wander a few weeks later and the Hector's on the other side of the road. Here, mate, I says. Cunt dives into the spar. Next thing I know, there's two police in my tail. They gave us a warning. Didn't even do nothing but. I needed a loaf, so I goes back to the shop. That cunt's still in there. Did you call the police? I'm going to do you, you grassing bastard. You're a shite bag. You better watch yourself. Fucking police are waiting for me when I gets back to my room. Arrested. Back in court. Charged. The sheriff goes, I hope you realise this yourself. Your behaviour was utterly deplorable and inexcusable. My brief's given it. I can see a big difference in his presentation over the last couple of months. The latest incident, however, is more difficult to understand. Eh? The fucking Hector stole my missus. What am I supposed to do? I could send you to prison, the sheriff says. He doesn't, but I'm getting a social worker. 120 hours unpaid work in the community. Was in the canal today picking up rubbish. The one in charge is an A-user. Kept disappearing to the bookies, so I nipped into a garden and picked some flowers. Big purple ones. That's her favourite colour. I'll go round there after I'm finished and gear them. She'll appreciate that.
Okay, so our next readers, I'll invite up Joe, Tatora, and Kate.
So my name's Joe Murphy, and this is the start of Across the Water. You can see it. Just about. They'd argued the night before. His fault, although he wasn't ready to admit it. Come to bed, she said, but he liked to sit up when he got the chance, enjoy his own company for a while, have a drink or two. But then he put the headphones on, and he was up and away on another musical journey. Switched to whiskey, rolled a joint. He woke in rough and grouchy, crashing about the flat in his boxer shorts, squinting against the light, trying to find clothes and stuffing them into a bag. When he got outside, she was already in the driving seat. He threw his bag in the back. I'll drive, he said, opening her door. Just get in, we need to go. He hesitated, holding it open, but he could tell by the set of her face that there was no point. He trotted round the front and got into the passenger side. I'm fine to drive, he muttered. Good, she said, and pulled away before he could get his seatbelt on. They let the radio fill the silence for most of the drive down, broken only by his footering with the dial, flicking between stations every time a song came on that he objected to, which was often. Just past Kilmarnock, she let him have it. Jesus Christ, Jamie, would you just leave the fucking thing? It doesn't need to be a bloody playlist all the way down. Aye, okay, he said, sitting back, glad to be relieved of the responsibility. It occurred to him he'd actually been annoying himself. He stared moodily out the window, watching the white blobs of sheep wandering the fields, the cloud shadow drifting like smoke. Another Piece of My Heart came on, the original Irma Franklin version. And as usual, he found himself watching his mother swaying under the living room light, singing into a hairbrush, brown hair jerking with every perfectly mimed line. His father laughing and getting up and dancing beside her if he'd been in the pub. The last time he'd seen her, she told him that this wasn't a world to bring children into. It never fucking stopped you, he felt like saying. But just then his dad came back with the dog and he made his excuses. You want a can, said Jess. I can stop at services. Her voice had lost some of its hardness, although there was no way of knowing for how long. Aye, I mean, if we've got time, that would be good. He glanced at her. She looked great. At that moment the sun was blasting through the front and her hair looked like actual gold, her face pink and scrubbed. She was wearing one of the old stripy tops that he loved, and the wee gold earrings that he'd given her for Christmas glinted when the light caught them. He wanted to reach up and touch her, but he resisted. We've got time, she said. I need to pee anyway. She was strong, his sister, totally fearless. He remembers seeing her once square up to 3 girls her own age. They weren't long in Glasgow, so he could only have been about 7. They tried to trip her coming back from the shop one Saturday morning, but she just lashed out and kicked the girl who did it. The 3 had rounded on her, but she turned just as quick to face him. You got a problem, sister? The middle one had said. I remembered the strangeness of the word sister like it was something out of a film. He'd started whimpering, saying, come on, let's go, scared of what was about to happen. But she just stood there in the middle of the pavement, chin up, green eyes blazing, jaw clenched. Oh, I've not got a problem, she said. The way it came out her mouth, it sounded like a threat. They just stood staring at each other. Nobody flinched or looked away. Her hands were balled into fists at her side. Come on, he said again, we need to go. Then the girl smiled and tutted as if it was just a joke. "We're only kidding," she said, and the three of them turned and walked away. It was a memory he knew he would hold on to, his big sister standing there looking so fierce, ready to take on all three if it came to it. They argued again on the boat. He suggested a pint and took the huff when she rolled her eyes. "What? I'm on my holidays." "Great, so I get to do all the driving." "We're only going to the house, we can walk everywhere else." "Do what you want, Jamie." "Fine, I will." He got up and headed off, leaving her in the comfy seats by the window. He didn't go to the bar. It would have been to give up too much of an advantage. He went to the shop instead. He bought water and crisps and a copy of the local paper. It was a tradition they had. They'd read the stories out in their finest Islander accents, adding bits of their own for comic effect. He dumped the crisps in the water beside her, but she didn't look up from her magazine. "I'm going up to get some air," he said. "You bring back some painkillers?" "What's up?" "Just a headache." "A lack of alcohol. Drink some of that water." "Just aspirin, none of that strong stuff. I'm not allowed it." "Right, but drink the water." "Yep," she said, and flicked over a page.
Hi, I'm Tatora. I'm going to read a story called Death in the Family. I hate phone calls on the train, even for banal stuff, shopping lists, dinner plans. But Mum caught me just coming out of the office, and I'd hoped 20 minutes walking would be enough. They're bringing her back now as we speak, like immigration enforcement officials charged with an improbable mission. David called Dad from Dubai, but is scared that she's too weak to fly the last leg. What can they do, I say, genuinely curious. If they think she's that ill, they'll just ground her, and she'll have to die in the desert. We calculate the options for a few minutes, and then we plot the path beyond. They'll want to bury her quickly, then head back to Australia. If the ambulance picks her up from the airport, it'll be to take her straight home. They don't treat here after stage 4. Mum knows everyone indiscriminately, so it isn't always obvious how credible her rumours are. This time, she was unashamed, though. The oncologist I was referred to by the blood clinic is hers as well. As well, we are cousins on my mother's side. She obviously knew about her, so she told me. And when she mentioned the ambulance at the airport, she just shook her head. Anyway, for a long-distance call, the connection held miraculously. Half an hour in, I ask how Dad is doing. He's all over the place. I don't think he ever expected to have to deal with this type of thing. And her family are attacking him, even the ones he thought were okay. They want blood. Has he spoken to you about it directly, or just as usual? He's had to. It has gotten to the point where he can't talk to anyone else now. The kids won't alienate him now that he's all they have left. You're right, but it's hard for them to talk to him. He's stuck for words, really. I haven't seen him like this. I search for a comparator within my knowledge, wish, or fantasy. This isn't like last year, when Granny died, and I was there with him on the day. I took on all the admin, and even packed his bag for the long drive to her community burial ground. He had been tearful at times. When my aunt, his baby sister, died of AIDS, who knows whether it was shame or grief he was overcome by. But there were rites still, some that I even partook when I wasn't at school. I want to witness him now, see what this death means to him. I reached out to my brother last month when the news first became known. For him, I want to be there, objective and detached, per my practice, but there for him to hold on to, call on, ask of. We've never before discussed his mother, just us and our future as brothers half-born. His words, not mine. Now that we have children the same age. Those 6 years we spent together, our childhood and shared memories, he has put a lot of stock in. More than his sister has, better than our father did. I'm sorry, Mum, you shouldn't have to deal with this, not alone anyway. This is nothing. After 45 years, this is nothing. She doesn't choke on the revelation. I know, it's just last time, anyway. We'll look at flights for Christmas. I can't risk time off when I'm only on a temporary contract. It's okay. If we can see you then, that will be nice. We'll want to break after these shenanigans, so I'll look into Seychelles or somewhere like that. Okay, let us know. Early this time so we can plan ahead. Between Carstairs and Motherwell, I see nothing out of the window. She's as good as dead already, is the message. I compose a condolence to my dad. I ought to have more to say than sorry for your loss. Unnatural loss, untrue sorrow. I can't even go that far for her, that vassal, whose anonymity I grind between my teeth. I flick through a free paper. The miracle phone connection rises again and rouses me as we pull into the station. Hello again, sorry. I have bad news. What? Amaka is no more. Sorry, what? She passed away this afternoon. No, how? She's 30. 30-year-olds don't pass away. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kate McCallan and I'm going to read two short pieces. And the first is called Snow Falling on January 1st. I had this dream about my brother's new girlfriend. It wasn't anything too specific. She was just my girlfriend instead of his. In the dream we were listening to Radiohead. Strange, because all the albums belonged to my brother. When she came round, I played the record, but of course she didn't know. I know that dreams aren't real, and yet I felt like I'd lived it. I was in a great mood when I woke up, and it lasted pretty much all day. I was sitting at my desk, drawing with this new set of pens. Then she came over, ran her fingers down the row. Lots of colours, she said. 100, I told her, but it's one of those things. You buy 100 colours, but you still look for the shade you don't have. And then she laughed. That night, I picked out all the colours I thought she'd like. A deep blue, a dusky pink, this grey that's almost lilac, that makes you think of the sky before it rains. When I gave them to her a few days later, she seemed pleased, though the moment seemed to pass without much significance, which was a shame, because I'd been thinking about it all day. Sadie is her name, which now I think about it must be about the best name I've ever heard. When she arrives at the flat, she sometimes brings things like cakes she's made or stones she's found, and last week, a tiny tree which she decorated with lights. Were you just going to pretend that Christmas isn't happening, she'd said, tying stars to the branches. Now, when I'm lying in bed, I can see our rooms like an X-ray. I imagine her lying there parallel. And sometimes I can hear through the walls. I climb into the wardrobe in the corner of the room because music would be too obvious. Then I just wait until it's over. At New Year, my brother had a party and everybody came. Sadie was cold, so he made her a hot water bottle. She sat in the corner with it, drinking red wine from a small glass. About 2 a.m, the place was full, the music was loud, and I was standing by the window. Look at this, said Sadie, and she touched me lightly on the shoulder. She gestured me forward, rubbed a patch of condensation clear on the window. It's snowing, she said, and she wiped away a little more. But every time she did it, her breath would fog it up again. She was standing too close. We leaned in, our faces almost touching. She moved my cheek a little to help me peer through the space. Later, I walked all the way to Leith because who knew how long the party would last for. People were still out on the streets, snow falling and dissolving on their coats. At 6:30 a.m, it stopped almost suddenly, as if someone had flicked a switch. It wasn't lying on the ground either, just forming icy pools all around us. The second story is called Summer in New York. My friend's going on a date with Jim Morrison's nephew. She sends me an email about it as I'm walking to work. In other news, I'm going on a date with Jim Morrison's nephew, it reads. It's raining, so I'm walking quickly, but I stop to scan the message. Standing in the middle of the street, I reread the sentence as it starts to pour. How old is he, I ask? 36. And how quickly did he tell you that he was Jim Morrison's nephew? But to this, she doesn't reply. It's always quiet on a Sunday. Customers appear gradually, uncoiling scarves from around their neck. We have to keep the door open and wet leaves blow in off the street. By 11 a.m, the buskers outside have started to play. We sell several copies of Billy Connolly's autobiography and have to completely redo the shelves. We're called into a staff meeting to discuss a situation in the men's toilets. They've become locally as a place for illicit hookups, and they've had to close them for a few days. The term is actually cottaging, announces Grace, who also works weekends. But the manager ignores this and just keeps talking. Weird that it would happen in a bookshop, I say, as we're returning to the floor. It's quiet, she says. And places like this need a bit of life, says someone else, who I haven't learnt the name of. It was all becoming a bit too cosy, a bit too Waitrose. We put a sign on the door which reads, "Closed for maintenance." Later, I'm stacking some books in the music section when I notice a picture of Jim with some wooden beads around his neck. I pick up the book and fan through the pages. It's never been opened and I can hear the spine crack. My friend's going on a date with this guy's nephew, I tell Grace. But she thinks I'm pointing to a picture of Morrissey and picks up the wrong book. No, Morrison, Jim Morrison from The Doors. Oh, right. Wow. Does he look anything like Jim? I don't know. I haven't asked her. I can't believe Jim Morrison's nephew lives in Glasgow, says Grace. He doesn't, I tell her. He lives in New York. That's where my friend lives. Sure, says Grace, nodding. I guess that's the kind of thing that would happen there. She starts to laugh then and moves to another section. She begins to put the Dylan books in alphabetical order. I end the day in the children's department, which I've discovered is the best place to be. There are regular kids that come in every weekend, some with parents who read to them quietly, others on their own who very rarely smile. My favourite is Sam, who appears every Sunday. He always looks like he's been awake all night and never wears a jacket. He sits in the corner looking through the atlases. Sometimes he asks me to order in books, which he never mentions again. Where have you been to in the world, he asks me when I'm brushing the floor. I've been to some places in Europe, and I once went to America. I stayed in Manhattan, in New York. I stayed with my friend who lives there. Where have you been, I say, and I glance at the book he's holding. He's taken a marker pen and circled some countries. He's drawn stars around the cities. I visited all these places, he says, showing me the book. The page is a scroll of lines with circles everywhere. When I'm sitting on the chair beside him, I start thinking about the trip. I think about how when I first arrived, the ticket machine at the subway had broken. It started spitting out tickets and no one could get it to stop. They floated onto the ground like confetti. Everybody just ignored it and walked through the barrier. A busker was singing an Elvis song on the other side. Did it look like this, says Sam, holding up a page. It's a photograph of Times Square in the snow and all the lights are glowing pink and blue. No, I tell him. I went in October and it was really hot. Do you know that in October it can feel like summer in New York? Yes, I know, says Sam. I went to New York in October too.